Okay, it is time to start the meeting. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am Marga Hugo, president of the Rotary Club of Chicago. I am delighted to be with you this afternoon and with our special guest. I would like to start the meeting with our tradition of ringing the bell. Thank you. And you'll be pleased to know that today is our 5,616th meeting of the Club of Chicago. Ryan, we started meeting in 1905, so it's not that we have a lot of meetings, okay? So I have a couple of announcements before we get started. As you know, we very prominently displayed or included in our newsletter the membership survey, and we really encourage our members who have not done so to complete it. There are 3 questions, and Tamra is posting it on the chat box now. We really need your answers because it's going to help us plan our meetings, where they're going to be in person, hybrid, only online. So as you know, we have to adapt to how this virus is playing with us. So it is particularly important that you take a few seconds, maybe a whole minute, to complete the survey, and we are going to be very, very grateful because we care about your input. All right. So after that, the other announcement is that on June 14th, it is going to be Timo Ribok's installation as new president of the Rotary Club of Chicago. So I encourage you to attend. It's going to be a fun event. And bring your friends as well. So, you can see what we do. They can see what we do. So do register for that. And then, in this case, the reception is going to start earlier than usual, 11:30. So come and join us. And, it's going to be a big celebration. All right. On next Tuesday, June 7th, the first Tuesday of the month, we are not going to have an evening meeting. Okay, so mark your calendars. You're free that evening. So the next time we are going to see each other virtually or in person is going to be on the 14th of June. All right, as you all know, if you have questions for our speaker, please post them in the chat box, and we will read them, or I can invite you to read them yourself, and the speaker will answer. Okay, so now what is next? I would like to introduce you to our co-chair of the programs committee, immediate past president Eric Kempel, who is going to introduce our speaker. Eric, go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much, Marga, and welcome everybody. So I know Ryan Pavel from the Union League Club of Chicago, where he is a new member. And it's quite apt that he's a member of the Union League Club. As those of you who are members know, it is very focused on support for the military and support for veterans. And that's what Ryan is all about. He serves as the CEO of the Warrior Scholar Project, where he helps basically recognize the potential of veterans to leverage military service into enormous impact in higher education and beyond. So at the age of 17, Ryan enlisted in the Marines, culminating in 2 non-combat deployments to Iraq. Ryan then earned his BA from the University of Michigan and his JD from the University of Virginia, leading student veterans of America chapters at both institutions. His teaching experience includes working as a Teach for America Corps member at a Detroit high school and an adjunct instructor at Virginia Military Institute. Ryan has also worked for a variety of legal institutions, including legal aid organizations and a large national law firm, as well as providing some pro bono services for veterans. He also serves as the Vice President of Partnership for Veterans Leadership Council, working group lead of the Bush Institute's Veteran Higher Education Task Force, and council member of the Teach for America Military Veteran Council. Please all give a virtual round of applause for Ryan Pavel. Ryan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Eric. I'm wondering, there's this joke that, there's a lengthy word in German for describing all sorts of feelings and emotions. And I wonder if there's some sort of word for describing the feeling of apprehension when somebody's reading your bio or introducing you, right? That there's always this sense of just like, oh man, that feels like that's a lot to live up to. So I'll see what I can do. But thank you so much for everybody for inviting me. I thank you as well for being willing to look at this nice hotel art behind me. Fortunately, I'm in a hotel room that has a lot of natural light, so hopefully the internet connection holds out here. If not, I'll log back on shortly. I'm thrilled to be here. I was really excited to meet Eric when I was exploring joining the Union League Club, and as he said, one of the things that attracted me there was the strong military engagement, but more broadly the civic engagement, and that's one of the things that Rotary Club is certainly well known for, right? I think for many people, if they were asked to list an organization that they thought of when they think of civic engagement, it would be Rotary Club, and so I'm really thrilled to be able to be here. It's an honor to be able to present. I was very intrigued by those introductions initially. And so I don't know if this is, if I know this is me presenting, but I would love to hear what countries people are everywhere, what location you're from. Is that okay? Can we just very brief, or maybe type it in the chat? Do you see two Ryan Pavels on here? One is because I want to be able to have just the screen, and then the other one so I can look at the chat. So can folks mind just posting in the chat where they're calling in from? That was fascinating. Yeah, Lithuania, right? That's incredible. Eric, I know you're Chicago, so yeah, that one I've got. Yep. All right, so we've got a number of people from Chicago. Working in public health in Uganda, Richard. Okay, incredible. Michigan, all right. Yeah. So there you go. Okay, so a bunch of people in Chicagoland, Scotland. Yeah, this is incredible. That international presence. Yeah, some car from India. Wow. Y'all are incredible. This is truly international. I can't remember the last time that I spoke to people. I've never spoken to people on a call that had people from across the world. So it feels like there's even greater import on this. So look, before I get too far down the path, there's a few different things that I think I can talk about that are relevant to the membership that you all have here, this incredible group of people. But I want to just briefly describe the main thing that I do, which is help lead the organization called Warrior Scholar Project. There's a short video. It's about 6 minutes. We're not going to watch the entire thing, but it's a film of a bunch of our alumni, quick hits on what their experience was like with Warrior Scholar Project. So I just want to briefly introduce that, and then ask for that to be played for about 2 minutes, just so you can get a sense of what the thing is that I do for a day job. And I think that'll lead into a bunch of other nice topics here. So in short, Warrior Scholar Project is about empowering enlisted service members to excel in the pursuit of higher education. And so the core differentiators there's two broad camps in the U.S. military. One is the enlisted folks that mostly do not have an undergraduate degree, that are kind of more what you think about it like the grunt work. I enlisted when I was 17 out of law school, or out of high school. And then there's the officer corps, all of whom already have a bachelor's degree, and those are the ones that are higher up in the leadership chain, right? That's a gloss on tons of military hierarchy. But we deliberately serve enlisted service members. And so what we found is that there's a lot of enlisted service members that have a desire to pursue education, but because a lot of folks like myself enlisted when you were 17, you don't necessarily have that pathway, right? It's unclear exactly how you get from A to B. And 62% of the enlisted service member population are first generation students. So there are some additional challenges that folks can face where they're not coming from a backdrop of education, right? And yet there's these enormous education benefits that are available. The VA in 2020 spent $13 billion a year on education. So a jaw-dropping number. So there's tons of benefits available that are being paid out. And there's a lot of service members that want to use it. About 200,000 people leave the service each year, about 115,000 of them start higher education. And so we are in that intersection, and we're saying, hey, you have these benefits, you have this desire, let's make you an informed consumer of higher education. Let's help you figure out what your options are, and let's make sure that you actually have the tools to succeed when you show up at a college campus. So with that said, if we don't mind playing a couple minutes of that video so you can get from a couple of the students about what their experience was like there.
My name's Shane Rice. I'm a freshman here at Harvard College. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years, 2017 to 2021.
Joining the military and becoming a ranger was like an outlet for me to reach my potential. The thing that got me to start pursuing academics was I wanted to know who I was outside of Marcus the ranger or Marcus this army soldier.
I think the same mentality that took me to getting to Ranger Regiment of I want to see how far I can go or what I can do led me to being I want to see how far I can go and what I can do in academia. I want to see how far I can push this.
I was getting ready for interviews and for applications to university, and when I found out that I got accepted to Harvard, I realized I might be in over my head, so I should try to look for resources to help transition into academia.
Warrior Scholar Project is the skill bridge between military service and skills and attending a top-tier university.
Within 48 hours of getting my DD-214, I showed up at University of Michigan for my WSP Humanities cohort. You're going from an organization with one mission, which is the military's mission, and we all know what that is, and you're going to another institution with a very different mission. WSP definitely prepared me a lot more to step into that, so it wasn't as abrupt as it would have been if I just showed up.
When I was in 8th grade, my entire county lost accreditation for about 3 years, which means diplomas don't mean anything, none of it meant anything, so I didn't take school seriously. I thought it was a joke. WSP, it helped me manage like how to balance out my class schedule better, how to manage my time better, how to study better. And my very first semester after WSP, straight A's. Very first time in my life. I told my dad to put it on the fridge. It was pretty cool.
So I didn't know how to apply to school.
So
I didn't take like SATs.
We'll pause it there. Thank you so much. Interestingly, two of those, Harry, who you saw speaking last, talking about putting the grades in the fridge, and one other, the two of them are downstairs. Marcus is also downstairs because they're here for our fellow training. So every year what we do is we bring back about 30 of our alumni and then we train them to go on and pay it forward. So now they're going to be going from campus to campus to campus, paying forward what they learned so they achieve their success. So it becomes this virtuous cycle. That's the idea, right? And that's actually one of the things that I wanted to use as a jumping off point to talk about what I think would resonate with a lot of the folks here, that there is this deeply embedded drive towards service in the folks that we serve. And part of what we're working on is what does that next chapter look like for them? And how do you not lose sight of that service? So a bit about my own background, beyond the bio that Eric shared, is that we are, when I was 17 and I enlisted, this was something that I didn't know what I was really getting myself into. I was a very apathetic high schooler. I knew I needed something to kick me into gear. And also I enlisted, I signed the papers in 2005. And that was a time that there was a lot going on in our country and in the world about, things that it was consequential to enlist. It always is, but it was consequential at that time. And one of the things that you get, no matter what job you serve in, when you're enlisting or when you're commissioning, is that aspect of service, right? Doing a cause, spending time on a cause that's bigger than yourself, right? There's very few things that are individually motivated. It's something where it's a group of people that are working together to be able to accomplish some type of mission. One of the things that I like about the military service is that you get to see all different types of leadership, right? Some of the best examples of leadership I've ever seen came in the military. Some of the worst came from my time in the military. But you work for a lot of different people. You work on a lot of different types of teams, and it's always this unified sense. And there's always this backdrop. No matter what people's reason was, their genuine reason for joining, there's always this backdrop of you are performing some sort of greater service. I know that there's often conversations around things like advocacy for folks who do a gap year, whether it's through military service, but in between high school and college, right? Doing things like AmeriCorps or a city year, things like that, and being able to serve something that's bigger than themselves. I'll say from a personal experience, joining an institution, right, of this size and participating in these missions was foundational for me to be able to orient to, okay, there's something about service and civic engagement that really matters to me in a way that I wasn't able to clearly define before. And I would offer that I would assume that for many folks that are Rotarians, that's also the case, right? That there's this clear call to service. There's this clear case to acknowledge that there's a bazillion causes in the world that need help, and unless people are willing to actually do things for that in terms of financial resources, in terms of time resources, none of that stuff is actually really going to come to fruition. I had a long story short, I got involved with student veteran advocacy pretty shortly after I got out of the military, and I never intended to, but I naturally gravitated towards that. And after teaching high school for a couple of years, and then going through law school, I was working in corporate litigation, and that was something that there were parts of that were fulfilling, but in contrast to the work that I do now of working, all day, every day in terms of a very service-oriented mission, for me, there was really no comparison, right? And it was something that for years when I've been volunteering with Warrior Scholar Project, I said, if only there was an opportunity to do this full time, I would take it in a heartbeat. And so as soon as that opportunity came, they could barely extend the offer before I said yes, not because of some deep set dissatisfaction with what I was doing in the litigation world. It just, this was something that was my calling. And so, I was looking through the strategic plan, which I commend you all in posting that, the public strategic plan that you all have written in 2020 and the 5-year plan. One thing is the data collection that you all have and being able to talk about sort of what opportunities you're looking for moving forward, and all of the aspects of the membership, the Rotarians wanting to be able to connect those service projects and have that real world impact is commendable. I think that that's something which is incredibly helpful. I would also offer that there's probably some opportunities within the Warrior Scholar Project realm. A lot of our folks need mentorship, right? Need to be paired up with folks that are doing incredible things. Many of them, to the international presence, the international point, right? Many of them have an interest in international affairs, right? Or things that are bigger than just, U.S. civil service. So to the extent that folks are looking for mentees, or to the extent that folks are interested in, in paying it forward and being able to find other people that you can pass on the things that you've learned over the years, let me know, because we can absolutely find folks for you to be able to pass on your knowledge. But I think that that's really important in thinking about the longer term vision for where an organization is going. We also went through a strategic planning process in 2020, which is a hell of a year to do strategic planning, right? Thinking about, what is up, what is down, what's left, what's right, who knows in that year. But for us, right, that was actually a really important part of it, of a forcing function to say, okay, here's who we were pre-pandemic. What are we in the pandemic? Before, we were 100% on site, right? All of our boot camps were on site, and suddenly everything is virtual. Okay, from an equity and access standpoint, speaking internationally, again, we had students that can now join our courses. We had one from Mogadishu, a veteran who's doing contracting work in Somalia, who joined from Mogadishu. We had students from Kuwait, from Iraq, from Japan, from Brazil, across the country, be able to participate in these virtual programs because they're stationed everywhere, right? Or they're doing work everywhere after service. So, I think that there's a lot of value in being able to think about what the organization is bringing to the fold. The other thing one of the things I wanted to mention too is, yesterday was Memorial Day, and that is always a challenging day for a lot of folks in the veteran community. And I know it's not certainly isolated to the veteran community, but it's particularly challenging this year for a lot of folks in light of a couple things, right? The recent mass shootings certainly make these things even more difficult, right? I think that the volume is turned up and a lot of those issues right now, and a lot of attention is being paid to it in a necessary way. But it makes days when you're thinking about those that we've lost and those that we've sacrificed over the years even harder. Things like the Afghanistan withdrawal last year, right? That was incredibly difficult for this community to be able to weather, since so many of us know folks that gave their lives in service of those campaigns abroad. I don't know what the perception is, if I were to put up a straw poll here about how people spent the time yesterday. But I at least wanted to acknowledge that was yesterday, and that if you celebrated by having a relaxing day, that's totally okay. And that's one of the things that I see more and more that the veteran community is pushing for and trying to speak out. It's not a bad thing for people to have a barbecue or to be able to enjoy that day, because that's what people sacrifice their lives and their time for, right? And that's what people gave up so much for, was so that we could have the ability to be able to do that. So I at least wanted to be able to acknowledge the impact of Memorial Day, which is always hard to be able to really put into words. on this concept of one of the things that stood out to me as well when I was looking through the Rotary Club's website was the importance of the mentorship and the scholarships, but also on the job placement side, right, and trying to help folks find that gainful employment. And this is also an area that we're really actively trying to work on. There's a bunch of organizations that work specifically in the job placement side for veterans, right? Veteran employment is a pretty commonly cited benchmark. The Department of Labor's, on top of it with those things, but helping people find really meaningful careers. And so, again, this is less about me sharing insight with you and more an opportunity that I see where I would love to be able to learn from all of you as well, to the extent that you have success and help people find those meaningful careers. That's an area that Warrior Scholar Project is pretty actively working towards. We're focused on the education side, but at the same time, education is only one piece of the puzzle, right? It's not something that you can just do education in a vacuum. It's going to be much more beneficial if it's something which is tied out to the career field. So that's I just really impressed and really interested to see all the various things that you all are working on. I have a couple other things that I wanted to that I want to hit on or expand on here, but I also want to pause for a sec because I just threw 7 or 8 different tendrils of topics at you, and all of them are things that I could focus on or expand on. So I'll pause for a second, see if there's anything in the chat, but also if folks have a specific question, or if there's a specific thing that would be helpful for me to talk more about, please let me know. So I'll pause for a sec here and see what resonates, what would be helpful. You can put it in the chat, or you could unmute, or I'll just keep going. I'll pick the topic at my.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, do you have mentees here in the Chicago area?
We do. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have about 2,000 people that have gone through our program overall. I don't know off the top of my head how many of them are in the Chicago area, but many, right? Especially if we expand to the wider Chicagoland area, there are, there's a number of our folks that are in that area that could use mentorship.
Because I think it would be very easy for them to, we can meet with some of them and say, okay, start having a conversation, see where they are. In Rotary, we love to network, and our network is global. As you may have seen, we're in over 200 countries, and service is a common denominator for all of us. But it's interesting because they have a lot to offer, and then I'm impressed by the type of schools that they all attended. So there's a question here that I saw in the chat box. Who funds you and how many staff do you have? Anyway, I'll let you continue the conversation.
Sure. Yeah. So a couple comments. So I'll answer your specific questions there, Bob. One thing I want to clarify. So the folks that go through our programs at these institutions. So for example, on Saturday, we have 30 students that are showing up to Notre Dame to go through our program. Those are students that are interested in Notre Dame, but aren't necessarily going there yet, right? So a lot of these folks we get to when they're still on active duty, because that's this pivotal time before they've started spending their benefits. So we want them to be able to be those informed consumers of higher education. And then our students go everywhere, right? So you saw a few of them on the video there about where they're actually attending, Shane and Harry and Marcus and all those other ones. But that's a big part. That's half the battle, right? Is understanding what your educational options are, and that can be a surprisingly complex aspect. So in terms of who funds us, so we are we're donor funded. The veterans pay absolutely nothing. We were beyond fortunate to get a transformative gift from Mackenzie Scott and her most recent grant round. So that pretty massively allows us to accelerate a couple things on our strategic planning, which is great. But there are some big foundations. Duchess Waugh Family Foundation, which some of you may be familiar with, in the Chicagoland area, they're actually underwriting our alumni conference, which is another opportunity. So in this August, we'll be bringing together about 125 alumni at University of Chicago. And so that's to be able to continue working with all of them and continue serving them. We have about 20 staff that work with us year round. And then every summer, we hire about 30 additional folks. And those are the alumni that are here for the summer that then travel in teams of 3 to 4 to each one of these campuses to be able to mentor and instruct and help guide our students. And we're a remote organization. We were interestingly, we were remote before the pandemic. So our staff was remote, but all of our programs were on site, right? So we had some competitive advantage in the sense that we already had a remote workplace set up, but all of that was contingent on then us coming together and being able to work together throughout the summer on campus, which obviously didn't happen. And then I see a question from Richard here. How many students do you all place at universities in the most recent year? So we are, so a couple stats on this. Again, I mentioned 200,000 people leave the service each year, about 115,000 start higher education each year. Way too many of them are pursuing degrees that aren't worth anything, in my subjective assessment, but I think a pretty well-informed assessment at this point. There are a lot of predatory for-profit schools out there that need to massively improve or get shut down. And there's some movement there, but not enough. So the folks that we work with, right, we want to be able to capture as many of them as we possibly can. Despite the impact of things like predatory for-profit schools, the overall student veteran persistence rate, meaning either graduated already or is on track to complete their degree, is 72%. For our alumni, it's every year it's it's 90% at a minimum. Last year it was 94%. So there's a pretty large jump in terms of overall academic persistence, and then also in terms of GPAs. Their GPAs are higher, and the schools that they're actually going through they're challenging themselves to be able to apply to schools that are really going to be setting them up for success afterwards. Not every student, after going through our program, decides that they want to pursue higher education. For us, so long as that's an informed decision, then that is something that we still consider them to be well served by our program, right? The only thing where we've really failed that we identify is if somebody still thinks they don't have what it takes. This really intensive hands-on model is how we get people from A to B, right? From I don't really have what it takes, right? I know I should go to school, but I don't really know where to go or how to apply my benefits, to yes, I do actually really know how to do it. I didn't give you an actual concrete number then in that, Richard. So last year we served 300 students. We're still collecting the next round of alumni data. But again, about 90% every year are on track. So, hundreds of our students each year are still going through their degree programs. And this summer we'll serve about 400 students across 24 programs with cohort sizes of 15. Victoria's question on women veterans is an excellent one. This is part of our strategic plan as well, which is also available on our website. A truncated version of it is available. But the women veterans comprise about just under 15% of the active duty military. And for years, that's where our percent was as well. 15% of our cohorts each year were comprised of women veterans. This year, it's closer to 21%, and our goal is to grow that to 25%. Interestingly, women are more likely to pursue higher education than their male counterparts. So even though women veterans, again, active duty is about 15% in the military, anywhere between 25 to 40% of the student veteran population is comprised of women student veterans. So women are substantially more likely to pursue education. So we want to continue to grow our seats and our presence to be able to help them succeed. Yeah, now y'all are flying with the questions, so I just got to keep on trucking through these. That's okay. Margot, so we are focused. Our primary focus for the first 10 years of our organization, our exclusive focus was on undergraduate education, right, being this necessary stepping point. Now, I'm an enlisted veteran. When I went to law school at UVA, I was one of, I think there were 2 other enlisted veterans that were in my class. The rest were commissioned officers who were there. It's great for the commissioned officers to be there, but we also want more enlisted veterans setting their sights on those types of programs. So we actually just last year, through some funding from the Diana Davis Spencer Foundation, rolled out a graduate school mentorship program to help get enlisted veterans into those, law schools, into the med schools, into the PhD programs. And beyond just the admissions piece, also being really prepared to succeed there, right? And to know, like a lot of people say, I want to get a PhD. Okay, what does that look like, right? Or my favorite is I talk to all these veterans, I want to be a lawyer. Well, okay, well, what do you want to do? Right? Like, I like to argue. Like, it's not a good reason. It's insufficient, right? Let's do some more due diligence along the way. But this is the sort of thing that, so again, the foundation side and individuals that are funding this, the more funding that we get at the Mackenzie Scott funding and some of these other funds allow us to be able to scale up our graduate school program. I mentioned it for the 3rd time now, 400 students that will serve this summer. But You compare that to the 115,000 starting higher education each year that are transitioning. That's, you know, we've got some work to do. So the more funds that we get in from individuals and foundations and the corporate side, then the more that we can channel that back into growing our programs. Bob, it's a good question as well on the vocational programs. So we focus on the academics because, again, it's so let me give a bit more. There's 3 different types of programs that we do. There's humanities, STEM, and business and entrepreneurship. The humanities program is really focused on the foundations of democracy. So they read Alexis de Tocqueville, they read the Constitution, they read the Declaration, they read Thucydides and Herodotus all over the course of a week. So I guess I didn't talk too much about the mechanics, but these are week-long programs where the students are working about 80 hours in that week. So it's a very intensive, rigorous environment. It's not graded, it's not accredited, it never will be for as long as I have a say in it, because the idea here is like, this is where you can show up and it's okay to fail because we're not gonna let you, right? Like, it's not like you're going here to be able to get a grade or to get an accreditation. You're going here because you have some drive to be able to commit to education, right? You have a drive to be able to better yourself, to be able to be a more informed consumer of higher education and to do better in the classroom. That curriculum around democracy does a couple things for us. Part of it is the actual, how do you take Alexis de Tocqueville's, you know, impenetrable democracy in America, right, and actually turn that into college level discussion and college level writing. But part of it as well is thinking about, right, evaluating the function of democracy, right? All of these, everybody in one way or another through service defended democracy. So have you ever really thought deeply around why we have this as our form of government? We talk about the civic engagement piece. What ends up happening with that, right, is there's a lot of conversations around the transition writ large. So when I mention folks go through the program, if they come out of it and they say, you know what, I'm actually not interested in pursuing an undergraduate education. Now I understand that I have what it takes to succeed there, but I actually want to pursue some sort of vocational route, or maybe I'm done with school, right? Whatever the thing is, we want to be able to support them, but we don't have a discrete program for folks that are going through alternative routes at this point, beyond just that, you know, continued mentorship. Yeah, Richard, you're asking the biggest question, right? So how do you scale, right? So I've laid out the numbers, right? And I've said 400, fantastic, right? Drop in the bucket. So if there is one thing that so I think about this every day. I think about this and talk about this every day. So how much time you got, Richard? Let's set up some time and let's meet and get a beer and really unpack this. So here it is in a nutshell. The modality that we use, as I mentioned, is very intensive for the students, and it's also resource intensive. So it costs about $5,000 per student per week, which sounds like a lot, except to say that dollar per dollar, there's no other program that exists to be able to have anywhere close to this same impact as WSP does in terms of the short and long-term academic outcomes. So this is the ratio of students to instructors, right? We pay our instructors, and there's all the travel materials and all of these things. What I'm here for this week in South Bend, right, when we're training up our fellows, all of that goes to about a 2-to-1 instructor to student ratio, which means that we can take students that have a really wide range of academic backgrounds and have them in the same cohort and all come out with we can really scaffold to be able to actually help them get from A to B. Some of them don't aren't reading at the reading comprehension levels, right, are at widely different levels. Or business and entrepreneurship. Some already have an idea that's baked that they're ready to actually start to launch. Others are just in the ideation stage saying, hey, I may be interested in business. So that aspect of what we do, right, this really intensive programming is limiting in the sense that not everybody has a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, if you want to go through all humanities, STEM, and business of their time to be able to come to a program. So a big part of our scaling is going to be having an on-demand version of our program that distills the essential nature of what we talk about in WSP that anybody would be able to access. And then to the extent that that's valuable, which we need to make sure, we have a lot of work to do to be able to make sure that that's not just something that's like a click-through thing that nobody actually benefits from. But then anybody that wants the full tilt experience, then they have the opportunity to be able to come to WSP. Because for a lot of folks, if you're self-selecting out of UChicago, Princeton, Notre Dame, you're also self-selecting out of WSP at Princeton, Notre Dame, or UChicago. You don't have the confidence even to apply to WSP, even though it's not graded. So it has to be a different modality that's actually scalable to a wide variety of people. One other comment on this, which is our resources, even in that way, are going to be limited. And so the other thing that you're going to start to see WSP do, if you want to follow us on social media, we're going to be talking about this a lot in the coming years, is helping to train up other experts in the field. So every college and university throughout the country has some type of veteran population and some type of veteran support program. Now, for some, that's very, very minimal. For others, it's really expansive and really sophisticated. So one of the things that we want to start doing is leveraging our expertise as an organization to say, hey, institution that we're not currently working with, we don't have the capacity to be able to run a program at your school, right, with all the programs that I just described, but we want to be able to help get your faculty or your veteran support staff to help them understand the lessons that we've learned, so you can have sort of a wider impact. Again, I saw in the Rotary strategic plan this idea of moving the needle. That's one of the things that we talk about as well, is how do we move the needle in terms of the overall student veteran population, not just the hundreds that come through our program, but how do we actually start to solve this problem of so many veterans getting out and not wisely spending benefits. And that has to be this different adapted modality, as well as thinking more broadly around lifting up the entire community, the entire sort of institutional support structure, even where we won't be able to necessarily have a program at every institution at all times. It's a lot. Yeah, sorry, you all got me started on the question. So Margaret, should I keep going?
I think it is extraordinary. I mean, I don't have experience, we don't have anybody in the military in my family, and then the friends that I have whose parents and children have gone through it. I mean, I don't know enough, I just know where they went, and then some of them, like teaching high school when they came back. But this is, I mean, I'm just amazed by our country. I have to tell you that, that this is happening.
I had the great opportunity of meeting many military psychologists when I was in Chicago. So their interventions have a beautiful impact, not only for education, but also on the whole military system. In Adler University, I happened to meet, I don't remember the professor, but the impact on various is quite good as military psychology is concerned. In my country, it's slowly developing, but in US, it's excellent. So hope both WSP and community psychologists or military psychologists have many collaborative programs. Along with we, the Rotarians, we are all service warriors. We can do some collaborative programs also. I appreciate the presenter. It's very good.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I'm so glad that you're joining us.
So, Marga, I put my thought in the chat box. I mean, this strikes me that these are services that I would have thought would have been provided by the U.S. government when people leave the military to ease the transition to civilian life. And I'm really interested in Ryan's thoughts on what, how receptive is the government to these services, because this strikes me as critical for the success of veterans who are leaving the service. What he does is obviously really important, but it seems to me this is something that should be funded and done by the U.S. government.
Well, I wonder if they can have the same agility, if the VA can have the same agility that his mother organization has, so.
Margaret, that challenge is true, but to Marshall's point, I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and the U.S. government provided a lot of these similar services to us as we left, and it's a smaller cohort. It's about probably 8,000 people leaving each year. But that is to say, the government does this in a different area, and if we're not doing it for veterans, then it's really just criminal and has to be fixed. I think that's a brilliant question, Marshall.
Yeah, I want to think that there are other organizations, doing something similar. That I hope this is not the only one in the entire, country that would be serving the veterans to have access to these schools. But it is fascinating. Yes, so Well, anybody has another thought? We have to wait for Ryan to be able to get back in. Let's see.
Yeah.
It looks like he's back. He's on the screen.
Well, Marshall, I think
he's muted.
Marshall, I think that's his second connection. So
okay.
I'm going to see if he can unmute that and speak to us through his audio. If not, we just might have to maybe move on and pull him in when he joins again.
Okay, well, so in the meantime,
Marga, Franklin or Adriana have a question. They've had their hand up for a little while.
Yes. Oh, I didn't see that. I'm so sorry. It is so good to see you both. Go ahead.
That's okay. Hello, everyone. So I posted that on the chat. At the City Colleges of Chicago, each college has a veterans specialist, and they are very good with them while they are at college. But when they are trying to transition to continue further education, it really gets complex. Let's say they don't find the help they need. So I wonder if this organization, helps them moving into that direction, if they connect with, two-year institutions like the City Colleges of Chicago, so they can move, because we have a lot of veterans and we try to help them, reinsert in their educations, aspirations that they have. And especially, we get all these students with PTSD, etc. And currently, I had a case that applied to several four-year institutions, 4.0 GPA, and didn't get accepted in any. So it's a very sad case. Yes.
Oh, wow. Yes. No, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's not young. It's a person, probably close to 40, but it doesn't matter. The person that is his dream, actually.
Yes. Mm-hmm. No, thank you. I know we were talking about how fascinating is the work that you are doing. And I don't know if you can see a question that Marshall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. So I was going to go. I think Margo, you're saying that I had like 3 minutes, so I have to place it like lightning round. Yeah. Okay. I think I used up my 3 minutes with trying to reconnect, but I will be quick with that. So one is Franklin and Adrian. The city colleges, I would love to be able to work with city colleges. So one thing that I didn't mention so much is that we also have a one-day workshop version of what we do. That originally started as a community college initiative. So tens of thousands of veterans will start out at community college. That's part of how I was able to be admitted to University of Michigan, was I needed to prove that I had academic merit and had to be able to get some of the dust off those academic years. Many veterans start there. And so a lot of folks that come back to Chicago, like Illinois veterans, will start at city colleges. And the support there can be tough. Veteran attrition rate at community colleges is even higher than the regular community college attrition rate, which is already high. So to the extent that you have connections to folks at city colleges, we would love to be able to embed with them and to be able to do some of these one-day workshops. That's easy for us to be able to resource something like that. And it's already funded through Bob Woodger Foundation. So we'd love to be able to do something like that. So please do connect. I'll drop my email address if it's not already going to be shared. Marshall made a really interesting point, right, about the fact that this should be available to the VA. I agree. This should be made available by the government, and it isn't. WSP shouldn't have to exist, period. I went through, when I got out of the Marine Corps in 2010, everybody goes through a transition assistance program. It was worthless. When I went through in 2010, it's gotten a little bit more worthwhile in the time period. There were a couple of years that I would kind of hem and haw about this, and I'm no longer doing that, as you all can tell, because it's just not working for folks that want to go into education. There's a lot of reasons for that. Some of it is, it's not all the VA's fault. A lot of it is also DOD and DOL. It's very focused on getting a job and not so much focused on education. And even the portion that is focused on education isn't really effectively taught. So at a high level, the curriculum is pretty solid for education, what you should be thinking through. But when you filter that down to the individual service members that are receiving this training, it's a web of contractors and people that don't necessarily really know how to go about helping them navigate that process. So I agree that it should be something which is broader. We have a memorandum of agreement with the VA, which is great. So we had to spend about 18 months working with them to be able to get a formal partnership with the VA, which means that now they share information to veterans, which is good. Not as frequently as I would like, but it's gotten a lot better. They shared it out to a few weeks ago, and we got a few hundred applicants out of that, which was great. So there's movement in the right direction. But yeah, and Marshall, I mean, I agree that there's some aspect of this that could be happening on a broader level by the government.
Yeah, Ryan, let me just ask a specific question. Have you worked at all with Tammy Duckworth from Illinois? Because she's a veteran. She was, former head of the VA, former Rotarian. She seems to me to would be a good entry point to try to get something done legislatively in this regard.
We would love to. We don't have any formal connections to her. We do read a piece of hers in all of our humanities curriculum. So all of our students read something that she wrote about her own transition. So I think that could be a phenomenal connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would very much.
Maybe we can make that happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Ryan, put your contact information there. Shelby already has it, but Monica will follow up with you, and then Marshall, we can help with a connection with Tammy Duckworth, right? So now, if you look at the screen, Ryan, this is our way to say thank you, besides helping you with connections. But it has been such a delight to have you with us, and since you are a member of the Union League Club, I hope, come back, because we have a lot to offer. And then who knows, you the core of your identity is service. So guess what? You'll find, fellow souls in service. So Eric, don't let him go so easy, okay? All right.
Thank you so much.
If you would like to bring, some of your mentees as well, I think it would be a very nice thing to meet them. All right. So now, you're invited to stay until the end of our program. We proceed with the business of the day, where we introduce our guests. So I see a couple of names that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, Mark, I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, I have to run back to the training, so this works out well. But I just want to say again, thank you so much for the invitation, for the fantastic questions. So please, you just email me, whether it's for whatever, right? I would love to keep this going, and I do hope to be able to see many of you at the Union League Club soon. And good luck with the 13,000 person gathering in Houston. That sounds incredible. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you too. All the best, and it will be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye. Okay, so now we have some time to introduce guests. Let me see who I haven't seen before that showed up. And I see Bob Shanks. Where are you visiting us from? I'm afraid I can't hear you, Bob. It looks like you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm actually a return visitor.
Yes, I remember you. Yes, okay.
And I've been in person as well on the fire brigade night about 3 years ago.
Very
but
good.
I'm speaking to you from Inverness in the Highlands of Scotland.
All right. Well,
I'm a member of Inverness Culloden Rotary Club, Culloden being the battle in 1746.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much for being with us today.
Well, I don't know if there's time, but the last time I was on, you had a speaker who was a chap who was running a sort of agricultural school for youngsters with special needs. Well, I've put him in touch. Well, I've put the one near us in touch with him. And I've been out to the school here, and hopefully we can get them to work together. Okay. And if a visit took place, my own club might help towards the cost of the airfare.
Okay, well, I hope it works out. Yes, and let us know how the conversation is going. But I remember you talking about that, making that connection at the meeting. Yes, well, keep us informed. Well, let's see. I'm glad to see some of our new members, Franklin and Adriana and Jacqueline. And I see John Alberts join us. Well, John, how is life in New Mexico? Okay, I think maybe he hasn't heard me. Well, then I see Larry Sato. Did I pronounce your name properly?
You did, Larry Sato. I'm here.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am well. I am well.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. And I hope you come back again next week. We have our annual, no, I'm sorry. We don't have a meeting next week, but check the calendar and visit us again, Laurie. It's good to see you.
Oh, good to see you too.
Okay, and then I see, let's see, Mark Nabong. Mark, are you in Spain?
I am. I'm in Spain right now. Pardon me for joining a little bit late today.
Well, it's good to see you. We haven't seen you in a while. So how is Barcelona?
Barcelona is fantastic. The town's been a little bit grumpy since Real Madrid won the Champions League again, but I think they're doing just fine. Otherwise, it's beautiful here right now. So thankfully, my children are relatively calm and enjoying it. I will say, Margot, I'll be back in Chicago for a few weeks in August. So I hope to come down and darken everyone's doorstep live and in person then.
Well, that's super. Okay, yeah, we'll be here. So, it will be great to have you. And we want to hear more details because these conversations are short, but...
It's true. It's true.
Well, okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for being with us today again. Okay, now I'll go ahead and I see Max Berube. Max, forgive me if I mispronounce your last name.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I actually went to Hamilton College, which is where your husband went.
Yes.
And I actually met him when I first moved to Chicago. I lived in Evanston, and I met with him in his office. It was great in Evanston. Just kind of, shot the bowl.
Well, okay.
It was very nice.
And when did you graduate?
2007.
All right.
So my dad's a Rotarian, and I'm a member of the Union League Club, and I'm thinking about joining Rotary. I've always thought of it as something that my dad does, but maybe it's something that I should do too.
Well, yes, stay in touch. I mean, we have your contact information, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. You saw Joan at the office, you visit headquarters, and it's wonderful. So, tell me what you like. Let's have a conversation.
Okay, nice meeting you. Thank you.
Of course, thank you for being with us. I'm hearing myself. So there's an echo. I don't know if you hear it too. So, okay, well, listen, now it's 1:05. I have to continue making announcements, telling you what is coming up with us. And we have for an in-person volunteer service, which is the second annual Kayak River Cleanup. Okay, we did it last year. It was a blast, and you would not believe how much trash there is in the Chicago River. So it's all there waiting for us to go and pick it up. So do register, and it's going to take place on Sunday, June the 12th from 10 to 12 p.m. All right, and there is a deadline to register, which is June 6th. So make your plans, and that is, I remember, where I met one of our newer members, Joel Tim, for the first time. He was in Rotary, and Joel, it's good to see you on Zoom again today. So hope you can make it again this year. All right.
Good to see you too. I'm unfortunately going to be out of town for a wedding.
Oh, okay. Well, the river will be dirty after we're done, so we'll do another one eventually.
Definitely.
So, okay. Well, thank you, Joel. Good to have you with us. Now here, you're going to see in the gyrator more instructions, but Rotary One has reserved tandem kayaks so that experienced and novice kayakers may be paired together. Kayak experience is not necessary. Volunteers should plan to bring their own bags, gloves, nets, and/or grabbers if desired, and they may bring their own lunch and eat together at the location at the end of the activity. All right. So that's it. And then, as you know, we have the Job One program. We are looking for employers. So if you know somebody who would like a really wonderful intern, please contact the office or Alita Williams or the email that you see, job1@rotary1.org. These are kids, for those of you who are visiting, that are trained, are prepared by members of our club in job skills and interview process and resume writing, and they're going to be ready to work at your organization for 8 weeks, I believe. And this is going to be their first real job. The students are juniors or seniors from the Chicago public school system and also from Chicago, and they have to be residents of Chicago. All right, so we have students, we need sponsors and employers. Then about meetings that are coming up, always remember, register on time if you're going to be in person, especially for our installation of Timo Rebok as president. And then on the 21st of June, we have, I'm sorry, you are seeing on the screen the committee meetings that are taking place. I don't want to read all of that because I will bore you, but if there's something that you're interested in, just put it in your calendar and join the meeting. All right, they are on Zoom, unless there's a change in plans, but so far the meetings are taking place on Zoom. Then on the 21st of June, we are having our last club assembly of this Rotary year. So if you want to know what is happening in the club, everybody, it's a really good opportunity. It sounds boring, but it is not. So you will hear what everybody else is doing. All right, and on the 28th of June, which is the last meeting of my year as president, Marty Kinahan and Mark McHugh from Envision Unlimited are going to be our speakers. So again, register on time because it's going to be awesome, really. And I would like to thank Eric as a co-chair of our programs committee for bringing another wonderful guest speaker. So I would like to tell you, my goodness, this is everything that we have for today. So tell me, are there any questions you would have? We have time to chat a little bit if you wish to do so. We have, if our guests would like to ask us something, now this is the time before we read the four-way test to close our meeting. No questions? Okay, well, as is the tradition, when we close our meetings, we read the four-way test. So I will do it this time because I haven't done it before. So the four-way tests of the things we think, say, or do. Number 1, is it the truth? Number 2, is it fair to all concerned? Number 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And with this, the meeting is closed. And I would like to tell you, before you do something else, go and complete that membership survey. And good, we're ready to go.
Thanks, Margaret.
Thank you.